was reborn on the day Reese Jong proposed to me. At that moment, he stood in a circle of red roses and candles, looking at me. No amount of lively atmosphere could hide the impatience in his eyes. Dragged downstairs by my roommate, I couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore and pulled the onlooking Remy Yi over. Reese Jong's eyes instantly turned ice cold as he stared fixedly at me. Aria Won, what madness are you up to now? I've already proposed as you demanded. What more do you want? I shook my head. You only proposed because of the pressure from your family, but I don't want that. Over the years, I've come to realize that the person you truly love is Remy. Since that's the case, I'll step aside for you. Remy Yi beside me eyed me suspiciously. Reese Jong was even more stunned. After snapping out of it, he grabbed my wrist tightly. With so many people around, you just had to embarrass me, didn't you? This guy really can't tell good from bad. Suppressing my disgust, I put on the most sincere expression of my life and pushed Remy Yi into Reese Jong's arms. You two are truly made for each other. I would never stand in the way of true love. Reese Jong looked at me hesitantly, as if wanting to say something. I patted my chest and said, "Don't worry, I'll talk to your parents. I won't put you in a difficult position." Everyone present froze for a moment, then, following my lead, started cheering again. After all, it's still a marriage proposal, just with a different person. The essence remains the same. But after the crowd dispersed, Reese Jong couldn't stay calm when he belatedly noticed Remy Yi's slightly bulging belly. He guided Remy Yi to sit on a nearby stone bench, then grabbed my forearm and demanded, "What nonsense are you spouting? How could Remy possibly be pregnant?" Of course, I couldn't tell him that in the previous life, Remy Yi had gotten pregnant just before graduation. In the end, they even blamed the first miscarriage on me, saying that if it weren't for rushing to watch my competition and cheer me on, she wouldn't have had the accident. An enraged Reese Jong arranged for someone to directly cut off my opportunity for overseas study. At the moment, I casually covered up. My mom has a friend in the obstetrics department who happened to run into Remy Yi during her checkup. Reese Jong grew even angrier. So you knew she was pregnant, yet you still made me. In front of so many people tonight. He hesitated for a long time without finishing his sentence. Feigning surprise, I said, "You love her so much. You swore in front of over 100 people from both our families that you'd marry no one but her. What, changed your mind now?" I sneered contemptuously. Reese Jong, your so-called true love is utterly unreliable. Reese Jong was choked by my words, stretching his neck to argue with me. Behind us, Remy Yi cautiously walked in. "Please don't fight." She placed a hand on her stomach. I was too foolish. Trusting the wrong person led to this situation. The doctor said my physical condition is extremely poor, and if I have a miscarriage, it could be life-threatening. Reese Jong couldn't stand seeing her in this pitiful, tearful state since childhood. So he immediately hugged Remy Yi to comfort her. "Don't worry, Remy, I'll definitely help you find that bastard." This child of Remy Yi's was from her mixed-race boyfriend whom she met while studying abroad a few years ago. But now, the man has gone missing. Remy Yi tightly gripped Reese Jong's sleeve. "Don't look for him anymore. I don't want him." I chuckled lightly. "Can't hit him, can't look for him. So what do you want to do?" Remy Yi remained silent, pressing herself firmly against Reese Jong. "I don't know. I was cheated out of money and love. I've lost everything. You two are all I have left." "I won't say anything." Reese Jong gritted his teeth and blurted out, "Don't worry, Remy, given the bond we've shared since childhood, I'll take responsibility for the child in your belly." Perfect. That's exactly the sentence I've been waiting for. Chapter 2. Only a few people knew about Remy Yi's pregnancy. She had requested a long leave from school. Reese Jong specially arranged a 3-bedroom apartment for her to recuperate in. After seeing Remy Yi off, Reese Jong turned back and stopped me. His eyes wide open. "Why did you react like that?" I put on a professional fake smile. "Seeing you and Remy Yi overcome all obstacles to be together, I'm happy for you." Reese Jong looked even more agitated, seemingly very dissatisfied with my words. "In our past life, we came together through an arranged marriage between families. Yet Remy Yi resolutely married the mixed-race boyfriend she had always longed for. Little did she know that after marriage, her husband would frequently bring home various mistresses. The deeply traumatized Remy Yi suffered multiple miscarriages. When I suffered my third domestic violence-induced miscarriage, I had just found out I was pregnant. Afraid of upsetting her, I kept it quiet and only called Reese Jong to share the news. But once Reese Jong's mother found out, word of my pregnancy reached Remy Yi. Remy Yi saw it as the ultimate malice and humiliation. That night, she texted Reese Jong, "I hope in the next life, you'll be the one who stays with me till the end," then turned on the gas in the kitchen. The person couldn't be saved. Reese Jong went berserk in the hospital, then rushed home and smashed everything in sight at me. He called me a murderer, saying I had provoked his Remy, causing him to lose his beloved forever. After that, my father's company was maliciously targeted by his family's business, and I was tormented for several years. At this thought, I clenched my fists. No longer sparing Reese Jong another glance, and turned to go upstairs. This time, I will make sure these two become deeply entangled, never to part until death. Otherwise, how could I ever make up for the suffering I endured in my past life? With nothing to do over the weekend, my father asked me to come home for a meal, saying the Jong family was hosting to discuss the marriage alliance between our two families. I told my dad that there's no possibility between me and Reese Jong anymore. He's already decided to take care of Remy Yi for the rest of his life. This meeting was the perfect opportunity to clear things up face to face. After waiting for over half an hour, Reese Jong finally arrived at the private room. Under the disappointed gazes of his parents, he declared loudly, "I promise to take care of Remy for life, and I will never go back on my word." His father clutched his chest and shouted angrily. Not knowing what on earth he was thinking, I chuckled inwardly. This was just the beginning. If the old couple found out Reese Jong was about to become a father, they might be even more worked up. My dad cleared his throat. "Old Jong, since things have come to this, let's just forget about the marriage arrangement between our families. After all, we should respect the young people's wishes. Everything could have been settled with that." But halfway through the meal, Reese Jong took a call and then checked his phone. Whatever message he saw made him glare at me abruptly. "Reborn, so you've been playing dirty with me. You haven't changed at all, still just as vicious." After roaring this, he stood up and splashed the red wine in his hand all over my face. Caught off guard, I choked and coughed repeatedly. My father was instantly furious, grabbing Reese Jong and slapping him across the face. "You little brat, I practically watched you grow up, and this is how you treat my daughter." Aunt Jong rushed over protectively, shielding her precious son. I wiped my face with a tissue and stared coldly at Reese Jong, fuming. He leaned down and hissed words only the two of us could hear, each syllable dripping with venom. "I knew it all along. Your fake congratulations for Remy and me that day were nothing but an act. You're just a scheming, venomous person, putting on a good face in front of others while secretly leaking the news about Remy's pregnancy. So that's what he's angry about." I sneered. "Reese Jong, without knowing the full story, you have no right to condemn me." With that, I slowly poured the fresh clam chowder from the table over his head, as if watering a dying plant, drenched from head to toe. Reese Jong stumbled backward, shouting, "You just wait for this." With that, he shoved me aside, grabbed his coat, and stormed out the door. The wooden door swung back violently, slamming shut with a loud bang. The atmosphere in the room turned awkward as the other elders present hurried to smooth things over, while Reese Jong's mother began making sarcastic remarks. "Not to be rude, Arya Won, but your temper is getting worse. Have you ever seen a decent girl throw soup at her future husband?" I remained expressionless. "You're mistaken, as I just made clear. Reese Jong has already pledged himself to Remy Yi." She crossed her arms and kept chattering. "Actually, I've met that Yi girl. She's perfect in every way. If the Yi family hadn't gone bankrupt back then, you wouldn't even be our daughter-in-law now." My father was furious and immediately demanded to know what she meant by that. I held my dad's hand and retorted with a smile, "Auntie, is being the daughter-in-law of your Jong family some kind of golden treasure, if you look down on me so much? Why do you call me a dozen times a day to supervise your son? Isn't it because deep down you think he's morally corrupt and no good?" Reese Jong's mother choked on her words, so angry she rolled her eyes. "In my past life, it was actually my would-be mother-in-law who spread the news of my pregnancy everywhere and then belittled me in front of Remy Yi. This is what ultimately led to the tragedy." But after the incident with Remy Yi, she and her son Reese Jong fiercely denounced me as shameless and cruel. disregarding sisterly bonds, and making my pregnancy known to the whole world. When I suffered a miscarriage after being repeatedly tormented by Reese Jong, she berated me as worthless, pinching my face with her freshly manicured nails until it was covered in bruises in the hospital room. In truth, a little reflection would reveal that a family capable of spoiling someone as arrogant and paternalistic as Reese Jong could never be a good place to begin with. Chapter 3. Reese Jong took a taxi back to school overnight to comfort Remy Yi. He barged into the girls' dormitory despite attempts to stop him. When I went upstairs, he was holding Remy Yi tightly in his arms, his cold, stern gaze sweeping over everyone. If any of you dare to say one more word about her, you're opposing the Jong family. Don't blame me for being ruthless. I'll make sure you're expelled from this school. He really has some nerve, acting as if he owns the university. Holding my sketchpad, I pushed through the crowd of onlookers and headed back to the dorm. Everyone, it's just a lunatic throwing a tantrum. No need to gather around and watch. The surroundings fell silent instantly, and my 3 roommates simultaneously gave me a thumbs up. Reese Jong tightened his grip on Remy Yi's hand, causing her to let out a soft cry of pain. What did you say? He looked at me in disbelief. On the way back to school, Reese Jong called, furious, saying that if he returned late and even a single hair on his Remy was harmed, he would hold me accountable. I laughed right then, and he snapped, "What? You think I'm threatening you? Let me tell you, if anything happens to Remy Yi, there's nothing I won't do. That's only natural, after all, in my previous life." He took revenge on me for Remy Yi's tragic death by setting up financial traps that ruined my family's company, the Rwans. My father was so ill he coughed up blood in the hospital, yet Reese Jong made him kneel to repent on my behalf. Back then, he had completely forgotten every meal he ate at our house as a child, forgotten how my father treated him like his own son. Reese Jong and I locked eyes, the tension between us palpable. Remy Yi suddenly rushed forward and grabbed my wrist. "Aria, no matter how angry you are that Reese chose me, you shouldn't spread such rumors. Enough is enough." I stepped far away from her. "First of all, whether your pregnancy is a rumor or not, you know the truth. Your act might work on Reese Jong, but don't think shedding a few tears means the whole world will give in to you." My roommate Xiaolin clapped for me. "Well said, you're my one and only queen." Seeing this, the other girls also began whispering among themselves. Exactly. The whole building just saw the news about her pregnancy, and she's already wailing and getting hysterical first. I just went out to get a package, accidentally bumped into her shoulder, and she coldly accused me of being sent by Arya Rwan to harm her. I couldn't defend myself even if I tried. She's making it seem like everyone is bullying her, when hardly anyone is even paying attention to her. Remy Yi's face grew increasingly pale, and she swayed before collapsing backward. Reese Jong caught her and glared at me angrily. "Arya Rwan, don't take advantage of your father's backing to act recklessly. If you don't apologize to Remy tonight, don't even think about stepping into this house." Hearing this suddenly made me a little excited. I moved closer. Reese Jong, barging into the girls' dorm and verbally threatening a girl. "It's you who should be apologizing. You've completely lost what little dignity the entire Jong family has left." Reese Jong was so furious that he raised his hand, ready to force my head down into a bow of apology. I gripped his wrist tightly, twisted it downward, and slammed him heavily onto the ground. These days, I haven't just been practicing my professional drawing skills, I've also found time to learn judo. "Your mom asked me to teach you a few more lessons at school. It's the least I can do." Remy was both shocked and terrified. Half dragging and half supporting the flushed-faced Reese Jong to his feet, the dorm supervisor came up with a broom to chase people away, and only then did Reese Jong let go and leave. The next day, he used his connections to track down the personal IP address of the person who had exposed Remy Yi's pregnancy. The whistleblower turned out to be Xu Na, who had recently been competing with Remy Yi for a scholarship. When I went downstairs to take out the trash, I happened to see Reese Jong holding Remy Yi while blocking Xu Na, arrogantly demanding that she kneel and apologize. A hint of smugness and satisfaction flashed in Remy Yi's eyes, but she still had to maintain her persona, timidly saying, "Forget it, Reese, Nana didn't mean it. She hasn't been giving me much trouble in the dorm lately. Besides, she's usually quite close to Arya Rwan. Wouldn't doing this be slapping her in the face? I don't want to cause any more trouble." Hearing this, Reese Jong's protective instincts surged even higher. I knew that Arya Won, with her spoiled rich girl temper, would never let me go. He leaned in and said threateningly that if Shu Na didn't kneel down, he would release photos of her working as a bar hostess. Reese Jong's way of solving problems is always so crude. Even though they shared the same dorm, he didn't even think to build some goodwill with Remy Yi. Upon hearing this, Shu Na trembled, overwhelmed by humiliation. She shouted. If Remy Yi hadn't pushed me too far, repeatedly taking my opportunities, would I have done this? As she spoke, she pulled out the pencil holding her hair and lunged at the two of them. Don't touch Remy, Reese Jong cried out in alarm, pulling Remy Yi tightly into his arms. Meanwhile, I, who had just come downstairs, was forcefully shoved by him toward the out-of-control Shu Na. The sharp tip of the pencil split the skin on my forearm, and beads of blood welled up under Shu Na's shocked gaze. I took the pencil from her. Go report yourself to the advisor and accept your punishment. For now, I won't pursue this matter further. As Shu Na turned to leave, Remy Yi, eyes wide with fury, shouted, She can't leave, Reese. Did you see? The two of them are in this together. If you don't give me an explanation today, I won't live anymore. That stance made it clear she was trying to push Shu Na even further into a breakdown. She naturally had Reese Jong protecting her. While I might become the target of Shu Na's vengeful anger, after calming down, Shu Na nodded at me and went to find the counselor. Reese Jong anxiously pulled Remy Yi aside to check on her, then looked up and noticed my injury. I'm sorry, Arya. For once, his eyes showed genuine remorse. It was an emergency just now, and Remy's situation was special, so I had no choice but to push me forward as a human shield. I glared at him with utter disgust. Did it ever occur to you that if I hadn't reacted in time, that pencil could have gone straight into my eye? Reese Jong's Adam's apple bobbed. It's not that serious. Remy is an art student. Her hands can't get injured. The moment he spoke, he completely forgot that these hands of mine have also been painting since the age of 7. As I stepped closer, Reese Jong tensely shielded Remy Yi behind him. Reese Jong, hold out your hand for a second. I have something for you. He frowned and extended his right hand. With the pencil I was holding, I forcefully drew a line across his palm. Ah, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Remy Yi exclaimed, hugging Reese Jong. I smiled sweetly and said word by word, Reese Jong, all these years of friendship, along with that push you just gave me, consider it all returned to you. I wish you and Remy Yi a lifetime of endless strife, never parting till death. In Reese Jong's trembling pupils, I walked away with ease. Chapter 4. Not long after, Remy Yi was called in for a talk due to prolonged absenteeism. Her pregnancy could no longer be kept a secret. Originally, the school intended to expel her, but Reese Jong intervened with money and even promised to donate a library, barely managing to secure Remy Yi's graduation certificate. However, as the whispers on campus grew, Remy Yi herself became increasingly sensitive. Whenever she saw people huddled together whispering, she assumed they were mocking her. Once, a roommate forgot to say good morning to her, and she angrily accused them of isolating her. I spent all day in the studio, fully immersed in preparing for the upcoming national painting competition. The ultimate winner of the competition would become the apprentice of a master in traditional Chinese painting, receiving personal guidance for 6 months. A dream I had cherished for years. In my previous life, I had prepared for this for half a year, brimming with confidence. On the day we were supposed to go out for the competition, Remy Yi happened to be suffering from unbearable stomach pain. Under the phoenix tree, she clutched my arm tightly, begging me not to abandon her. I clearly called an ambulance for her and called the teacher. Yet afterward she still went around claiming I had left her to die. This time, I absolutely won't soften my heart even a little. Kindness shown to unworthy people will bring disaster upon oneself. I didn't open the door to leave until the sunset. When I had finished painting, a tall, lean figure stood abruptly at the door, casting a shadow over me, which gave me quite a fright. Reese Jong, what are you doing here? I stared at him with full vigilance. I wrongly accused you last time. I came to apologize. As he spoke, he insisted on pushing his way into my studio. No need, this won't be the last time you apologize anyway. Reese Jong's gaze faltered, looking genuinely hurt. Even without the engagement, there's no need for you to speak to me like this. Besides, are you really completely blameless? You know Remy is pregnant now and at her most vulnerable, yet as her friend, you're not by her side. Arya won. When did you become so mercenary? My face was full of resistance. Stay away from me. If I stayed by her side, how could your deep affection and greatness stand out? I don't have time to waste with him. Get out of the way. Don't stop me from winning the prize. Reese Jong grabbed my wrist tightly. How much money can you even get from winning? I'll pay you 50,000. Go take care of Remy full-time at Lanyuan Apartments. That competition you're entering is all hype. When can't you go? I smiled and shook off his hand, saying softly, Reese Jong, it's time to drain the water from your brain. On Monday, I arrived at the competition venue early as I had hoped, and drew the number 9 in the order. The venue was packed with people. I had just steadied myself when a commotion erupted at the entrance. A contestant shouted angrily, "What's the problem? Who brings a whole squad of bodyguards to a competition?" Out of the corner of my eye, Remy Yi walked in wearing a formal dress, surrounded by a circle of black-clad bodyguards holding hands to shield her. Reese Jong carefully shielded her as they moved forward, draping a cashmere shawl over her shoulders. It looked like some big-name celebrity making an appearance. It suddenly occurred to me that Remy Yi had also signed up for this national painting competition, but seeing her lounging in the apartment all day, weighted on hand and foot, posting all sorts of pregnancy glamour shots, I thought she'd long forgotten about it. I went to the restroom, reached out my hand. But the door was locked from the inside. I thought it was someone's prank, but when I managed to climb over the door with all my strength, I just caught a glimpse of a black-clad bodyguard jogging away. Fortunately, it only delayed me for a few minutes. By the time I arrived at the exhibition booth, Remy Yi was already holding the microphone and beginning to share her creative journey. The painting displayed behind her was precisely the one I had just finished, titled Dawn, in short. This painting is a portrayal of the moments shared between me and the most important person in my life, Mr. Jong. Our love is as bright and eternal as this sunlight. I sneered and cut off the power to her display screen. You're quite imaginative, spinning such elaborate tales about someone else's artwork. Remy Yi froze, glaring at me with resentment. She seemed surprised that I could still appear here. Arya won. Reese Jong pushed through the crowd to pull me away. Let's talk about this downstairs. Don't make a scene here. I blocked his arm and pinned him to the ground. You scoundrel. My artwork magically became Remy Yi's, and you dare come here to lecture me. Now I finally understand why Reese Jong kept glancing nervously behind me when he came to the studio that day. You weren't there to apologize. You came to secretly photograph my work. Remy Yi cut me off, speaking condescendingly. Arya won. Stop talking nonsense. People will just think you're crazy. Without hesitation, Reese Jong signaled the bodyguards to drag me out. Chapter 5. Amid the chaos, the renowned traditional Chinese painting master, Professor Zhao, stepped onto the stage, cleared his throat, and silenced the commotion. He asked Remy Yi whether the painting Dawn was truly her own work. Remy Yi eagerly admitted it was, to which Professor Zhao smiled and shook his head, saying, "Young one, poor painting skills can be improved. But a flawed character is beyond repair." Remy Yi's face instantly turned pale. What do you mean? But when she looked up and saw all my works displayed on the big screen, she was left speechless. It was simple. Ever since I decided to study under Master Zhao, I had contacted him early on and mailed him a painting every month. The competition piece, Dawn, had also been completed and submitted to the event committee a week prior. Remy Yi instantly drew scornful looks from everyone in the audience. Her face flushed red as she clutched her stomach and threw herself into Reese Jong's arms. Brother Reese, it turns out Arya Won has always seen me as an enemy. She never trusted us from the start. Reese Jong glared at me in embarrassment and anger. You did this on purpose, pretending to be cautious and deliberate, just to make fools of us. I sneered, you're the thieves, yet you're the ones who are angry. Your shamelessness has reached new lows. Reese Jong forcefully had the bodyguards drive the others away, gritting his teeth as he said, Remy is pregnant now and shouldn't be overworked. I just wanted to make her happy. Besides, it's just a painting. There's no need to make such a fuss. Know when to stop. They were clearly despicable thieves, yet they spoke as if they were righteous and justified. Put away your bandit logic. I couldn't help but growl. Reese Jong. To get Remy Yi noticed by a renowned mentor, you wouldn't hesitate to ruin my opportunity. Who gave you the right? Was it also with your tacit approval that someone locked me in the bathroom? Reese Jong remained silent, his gaze complex and fixed on me, at my strong insistence. The event organizers called the police. However, Reese Jong and the other person were released after paying a fine. But the humiliating video of Remy Yi at the competition had already spread throughout the entire community. Together with other artists, I signed a petition to boycott such foolish and shameful plagiarism. Remy Yi was scolded to a pulp within a few days and was forced to disable the comments section. Late at night, Reese Jong called and continued to accuse me of being aggressive. You knew she was pregnant. Couldn't you have given her some slack? Being pregnant isn't an excuse for her to act out. Chapter 6. As graduation approached, I moved out of the dormitory and devoted myself entirely to learning painting under Professor Zhao. I also took the opportunity to travel around various cities in the south, visiting renowned painters. After returning, the class monitor called, suggesting we gather before graduation. After a pause, she added, that person, Remy Yi, will also be there. I'm not surprised, after all, she's in the same department as me. However, counting back, at this time in my previous life, it was precisely when she had her first miscarriage. The gathering was held on the second floor of a quiet bar, an open-air rooftop where the evening breeze made everyone feel much more comfortable. During the gathering, Reese Jong attentively took care of Remy Yi, whose belly was slightly protruding. Remy Yi put down her water glass and walked over. Aria, come with me to the restroom. Alarms immediately started blaring in my mind, and I took a big step back. With so many girls around you, why does it have to be me? Aria won. Reese Jong's tone darkened upon seeing this. Don't drag Remy into our Cold War. Would it kill you to accompany her to the restroom? If things go wrong, I really might die. Thinking back to my previous life when he threatened my father's life, forcing me to work over 10 hours a day doing heavy labor and even sleeping beside Remy Yi's tombstone, I grit my teeth in hatred. What expression did Reese Jong have when I died of heart failure from overwork? Laugh your heart out with joy, then curse me to eternal damnation. I remained seated, unmoving as a mountain, while Remy Yi, looking displeased, wiped her tears and headed to the bathroom. During this lull, Xu Na, who hadn't been seen in a while, stood up and poured a glass of wine to toast Reese Jong. Mr. Jong, I was wrong before, terribly wrong, but I beg you to show mercy and stop pressuring my parents. They're just farmers, and my mother suffers from schizophrenia. She can't handle the stress. Xu Na looked haggard, her voice choked with sobs, appearing on the verge of a breakdown. Reese Jong simply raised his wrist and leisurely sipped a mouthful of red wine. Oh, what does that have to do with me? You offended Remy and made her unhappy. This is the price. Xu Na gritted her teeth. I've been handwriting apology letters to her for a whole month. What more do you want? And you even hired local thugs to harass us. Hearing this, Reese Jong was stunned. I only told them to cause a little trouble in the orchard, didn't I? This was already a serious violation of the law. I looked at Reese Jong speechlessly. Xu Na had always been a financially struggling student, and her family's orchard was their sole means of livelihood. He arranged for people to cause trouble, enough to ruin their income for the entire year. Yet he still felt the punishment was too light. A sudden gust of wind swept across the terrace, and Xu Na, losing her balance, stumbled forward. Reese Jong instinctively caught her in his arms. Returning from the restroom, Remy Yi witnessed the scene, her eyes blazing with fury. She rushed over, ready to grab Xu Na by the hair, shouting, "How dare you try to seduce him? Seems I've been too lenient with you." The surrounding classmates didn't dare to step in and break up the fight. For a simple reason, when Remy Yi loses her temper, she doesn't recognize friend from foe. If she was upset about something, Reese Jong would take it out on others too. Remy, calm down, it's just a misunderstanding. Amid the chaos, the silver railing behind them shook violently, with a loud bang. The out-of-control Remy Yi and Reese Jong both fell from the second floor. The class monitor rushed over in panic, exclaiming, "Oh my God, call 120, call 120 now." I glanced down just in time to see a pool of blood spreading beneath Remy Yi, mingling with the orange glow of the streetlights at night. Like a blooming crimson enchantress, Remy Yi had a miscarriage. The squad leader said that as soon as she woke up, she started crying and making a scene. gripping Reese Jong's neck and refusing to let go. "If it weren't for you and that bitch, how could I have lost my child? You promised to take care of me for a lifetime. Was it all lies? You're just like that bastard who abandoned me." Reese Jong stayed by Remy Yi's side day and night, offering no resistance. In his previous life, Reese Jong once told me that the reason he spoiled Remy Yi unconditionally was because she had saved his life when they were in elementary school. He sneaked out one night to look for a puppy and nearly froze to death in the snow. It was Remy Yi who carried him back home. At that time, he promised to be good to this little girl for the rest of his life. But he never knew that the one who walked half an hour in the snow to bring him back was me. After the fall, Reese Jong suffered a fractured right hand and wore a cast, visiting Remy Yi in the hospital every day to care for her. At first, he still felt guilty, believing he bore some responsibility for the accident. Moreover, he thought that Remy Yi had become so extreme because of the sudden upheaval in her family during her youth. Followed soon after by being emotionally manipulated by a scoundrel, he posted on his social media, "I will use all my love and sincerity to bring you back from the darkness, just like how you carried me home back then." But Reese Jong didn't know that soon, his family would also face a sudden upheaval. "When I went home for dinner, my father casually mentioned, the Jong family's product chain is about to collapse because their key executives were poached. They're scrambling to borrow money and secure financing everywhere now." Naturally, I was aware of this matter because I had also played a part in it. Chapter 7. That day, my cousin's family had something to attend to outside, so I took my little nephew to the hospital for a dental checkup. As luck would have it, I ran into an acquaintance by the fountain at the hospital. Remy Yi, sitting in the wheelchair, looked pale, his eyes filled with confusion. Reese Jong lowered his head and handed a thermos cup to Remy Yi's lips, but after saying something, Remy Yi abruptly knocked the cup over. Boiling water splashed onto Reese Jong's face, scalding him so badly that he shuddered and couldn't help but growl. "What the hell do you want from me? You're yelling at me. You actually dare to yell at me. Isn't this proof that you don't love me anymore?" Tears streamed down Remy Yi's face as she said, "Just go. I don't want a man who doesn't love me by my side. Let me wither away alone." The 4-year-old nephew in my arms scratched his head and asked me innocently, "Auntie, are those two crazy? Should we buy them some food?" The teacher said we should show compassion even towards the mentally ill. Reese Jong overheard this and snapped out of his rage, staring at me in shock. Only then did I notice, after just a few days apart, his bangs were now poking into the corners of his eyes. His eye sockets sunken, as if he'd contracted some serious illness. Remy Yi spotted the little nephew in my arms and pointed a trembling finger at me. "What's the meaning of carrying a child here to mock me? How could you be so cruel?" If Arya Won hadn't gone to the party, I wouldn't have gone either. And nothing would have happened. I was speechless. The so-called unreasonable person can find a reason to blame you even if you're 100,000 miles away from her. I'm not your mother. Why do you have to follow me wherever I go? Arya Won, shut your mouth. Reese Jong didn't realize he was always on the path of silencing me. I shrugged. "Instead of wasting time arguing with me, you'd better hurry up and get her a neurology appointment." My little nephew giggled. "Auntie is awesome, holding the kid." I strode away triumphantly, leaving the two behind still bickering. 4 years of university came to an end, as I packed my luggage and headed downstairs. I unexpectedly ran into Shu Na, who was also carrying a suitcase. She nodded at me, quickly walked past, but then suddenly turned back. "That night, you knew it was me who tampered with the railing. Why didn't you expose me?" I shook my head. "I don't know what you're talking about. I have no intention of getting involved in the disputes between her and Remy Yi. On the contrary, the more deeply she retaliates against those two, the more I enjoy watching it." As I turned around, a large hand suddenly reached out and shoved me against the wall. "Reese Jong, are you out of your mind? Has Remy been missing for several days? Does it have anything to do with you?" He stared straight at me, his right hand slowly creeping up to my neck. "She used to disappear often before. Am I supposed to be held accountable even if she loses a single strand of hair? I just saw you with that Shu Na. She had a grudge against Remy. Don't you dare say you didn't egg her on." Arya Won, "You're jealous that Remy has won my heart, so you're taking your hatred out on her." I watched coldly as he puffed himself up, pressing my index finger against his forehead. "Reese Jong, how have your bones been lately? He pursed his lips, swallowed hard, recalling the terror of being at the mercy of my bone-loosening techniques. Words alone prove nothing. Show me your phone, and then I'll know if you've been playing dirty tricks on Remy. I laughed in anger. Look at my phone. You think you're worthy. His eyes were firm, and he smirked. See, you're guilty. As he spoke, he tried to snatch my phone by flipping open my pocket while I turned away. In the midst of the struggle, he pushed me into the small studio next to us. I looked at his furrowed brows, so deep they could crush a few mosquitoes, and suddenly remembered something amusing. Reese Jong, you said Remy Yi has been missing for days. Instead of urgently searching for her, you're here venting your madness on me. It's clear you don't care about her that much. Ever since I last saw them arguing at the hospital, I noticed that the tenderness in Reese Jong's eyes when he looked at Remy Yi was fading, replaced by growing irritation. No matter how beautifully spoken the emotions are, they will wear thin in the face of daily tests and mischief. Feeling exposed, Reese Jong impatiently lit a cigarette and held it between his lips. My expression instantly darkened. This is a studio. Get out if you want to smoke, but he seemed suddenly intrigued. It's been a while since I've heard you scold me so bluntly. I almost miss it. I suspect he might need to see a neurologist too. In the dead silence, my phone rang. It was Liao Yang, a junior from the art studio, calling. Senior, I'm all ready and waiting for your royal favor. He's been my go-to life model lately. Okay, I'll come to the studio right away. Stop, don't move. Reese Jong was standing very close to me just now, so he heard Liao Yang's joking remark, "What's your relationship with this person? When did you two get together?" I shoved him aside and walked out. If you can't speak properly, then shut up. Reese Jong forcefully blocked the door, refusing to let me leave, insisting that I go with him to the police station to wait for news about Remy Yi. I elbowed him in retaliation and was about to yell when a thick white smoke suddenly filled the cramped studio. It was a cigarette, but Reese Jong had angrily tossed aside. It had ignited the sketches piled in the corner. It was an accident, he blurted out in panic, pulling out his phone to call for help. Through the thickening smoke, I endured the suffocating pain as I rescued the other stacked sketches. Fortunately, there were other classmates in the building at the time. Everyone sprang into action, and the flames were quickly extinguished. Both Reese Jong and I received disciplinary records, but he also got the special honor of being publicly announced to the entire school. Whether in my past life or now, getting involved with him has never brought me a good outcome. Now, going to the police station is unavoidable, I said coldly, dialing 110, Chapter 8. Perhaps it was fate. Among all the sketches in the studio, only 2 were burned. And one of them happened to be the painting I had done long ago, titled Memories in the Snow. At the police station, Reese Jong trembled all over when he saw this half-burned painting. In the vast white snowscape, a girl with a ponytail carried an unconscious boy on her back, trudging forward, followed by a little black dog limping on 3 legs. Reese Jong's eyes were frighteningly red as he asked me in a hoarse voice, "Aria, did you paint this? Was it really you who carried me home back then?" I remained silent as he clutched the drawing paper tightly, unwilling to let go, his expression revealing a hint of nostalgia and regret. Soon, my father and Reese Jong's parents arrived as well. The night was deep, and a torrential rain poured outside, the raindrops hitting the ground and splashing up golden-winged butterflies. Seeing her son in such a distraught state, Reese Jong's mother raised her umbrella, ready to strike me. "You're making such a small issue into a police matter. Are you deliberately trying to oppose our Jong family? No wonder. Someone raised without a mother from childhood has no manners. Watch your mouth. How dare you lay a finger on my daughter?" My father stepped in front of me, and Reese Jong's parents immediately backed off. "Aria Won, it's just a few worthless paintings. If you needed them, I could buy you 100. But no, since you couldn't climb up to my Reese, you had to ruin him instead." My father laughed. "Who would want your precious son? So eager to be someone else's lapdog?" Reese Jong's parents were already upset because my dad didn't lend them money in their time of need, and now they were finding every excuse to vent their frustration. The police officer shouted to stop them, and only then did the 2 shut their mouths. Reese Jong's mother grabbed her son's hand. "Reese, tell me it's not true what that little bitch Aria Won said. That you haven't been messing around with others." Enough, Mom. Reese Jong covered his face with his hands and muttered, "You shouldn't talk to Arya like that." I raised an eyebrow. What kind of drama was this? Reese Jong was asked to compensate for the damage to my artwork, but his mother absolutely refused, insisting her son had done nothing wrong. During the scuffle, a small packet of white powder fell out of Reese Jong's pants pocket. The room fell dead silent. And the officers' expressions instantly turned grave. They picked up the white powder from the ground for testing. While temporarily detaining the shocked Reese Jong, my father shielded me and sneered, "You didn't leave earlier, and now your son can't go anywhere. Tonight has been full of twists and turns, and I'm utterly exhausted." Just like when I was a child, my father patted my shoulder reassuringly, telling me to focus on my painting studies and that he would handle everything. A few days later, just as I received an interview notice from a top international art school, I heard that Remy Yi had returned. Moreover, she was pregnant again, and the child was still that of her mixed-race boyfriend. However, her boyfriend had been taken away for committing crimes abroad, and Remy Yi's so-called love shattered once again, leading her to turn back to Reese Jong. Little did she know, Reese Jong was still in detention at the time. His blood test report showed no issues. But the source of the contraband that fell from his pocket still hadn't been traced. In the end, it was Remy Yi, despite her pregnancy, who stepped forward to testify, stating that Reese Jong had been falsely accused while accompanying her to the gathering. Only after the investigation was completed was Reese Jong released. That day, my father personally drove me to the city to attend the exchange conference. Passing by the city police station, traffic was jammed, and I happened to witness Reese Jong's mother frantically grabbing Remy Yi's hair, screaming that she had ruined her son. Remy Yi, despite her pregnant belly, was surprisingly strong and quickly pinned the other woman to the ground. With a cold expression, she said, "My first child was killed by Reese Jong. This is what he owes me." Chapter 9. Reese Jong was pestered by Remy Yi and, with a heavy heart, temporarily cut off contact with his family to accompany Remy Yi during her pregnancy. I posted the videos I had collected of the two of them online, captioning them, "Calling this the pinnacle of pure love wouldn't be an exaggeration." However, knowing Remy Yi's sensitive and suspicious nature all too well, I also hired a small group of internet trolls to subtly imply in the comments section, "Marriage should be between equals, otherwise, there will be plenty of problems down the road." When Remy Yi went live to share snippets of her romantic life, everyone could see from Reese Jong's increasingly disheveled state that his psychological defenses were crumbling. That day, I shared a newly award-winning painting online, Reese Jong, the first one to give me a like. That very night, during Remy Yi's livestream, she prompted Reese Jong to perform intimate gestures with her. Reese Jong didn't cooperate, and with the sarcastic comments from onlookers piling up, Remy Yi lost control and grabbed a nearby wine bottle, smashing it against Reese Jong's left cheek. Watching the two of them fight like dogs, stabbing at each other's weak spots, I was so delighted that I ate an extra half bowl of rice. Not long after, the Jong family, barely holding on to their hollowed-out company, hosted a family banquet. I dressed in my finest attire and presented an exquisite painting, receiving a room full of praise thanks to my current achievements and fan following. Remy Yi, left neglected in the corner, glared at me with a sinister look, her eyes filled with resentment. She had come this time to flaunt the depth of her love with Reese Jong, claiming it remained unshaken despite countless obstacles. But now, the bankruptcy of the Jong family's company is already a foregone conclusion among the people present. Apart from Reese Jong, who treated her like a treasure, who else would bother with her? Reese Jong's parents forced him to go on blind dates with other wealthy girls. But to put it bluntly, it was to make him a live-in son-in-law. But at least this way, they could barely maintain a high-quality life in the future. Seeing this, Remy Yi tightly hugged Reese Jong's waist, appearing helpless but actually speaking with a hint of threat. "Reese, you're all I have left. If you abandon me too, I don't know what I might do." Reese Jong closed his eyes briefly, and when he spoke again, his gaze was utterly indifferent. "I will never leave nor forsake you, until the end of my life." Remy Yi smirked slyly in their direction and enunciated word by word, "If you break this promise, may your entire family die horribly." Reese Jong's mother was so furious on the spot that she collapsed to her knees, her hands trembling uncontrollably. I started a live stream, uploading this heartwarming scene in its entirety. Thus, Rees Jong found himself in a dilemma with no way out. Under the watchful eyes of the entire internet, he had no choice but to live and die alongside Remy Yi. He began to resign himself to sending out resumes and looking for a job, but because of his previous incident at the police station, Rees Jong was left with a stain on his record, and almost no legitimate company would hire him. Rees Jong and Remy Yi obtained their marriage certificate. A few months later, Remy Yi gave birth to a son, and Rees Jong became a first-time father. Yet the reality was that his current monthly salary of 1 or 2,000 yuan couldn't possibly support the livelihood of his wife and child. When I got home, Rees Jong's mother specifically came to knock on my door, grabbing my wrist and demanding that I find a way to win back her son's heart. "That little bitch Remy Yi is leeching off my son. How could she ever be worthy of entering our Jong family?" As she spoke, Rees Jong's mother's eyes welled up with tears. "She doesn't earn a single penny, yet spends tens of thousands on clothes every month. My son has to work late-night shifts driving just to support her." I laughed. "Auntie, your son is doing this willingly. You can't blame anyone else." Before going abroad, I hosted the first solo exhibition of my life. First art exhibition. As I enthusiastically chatted with several art-loving gentlemen, Rees Jong approached from nearby with a forced laugh, just a few months apart. And he looked like he'd aged 10 years, with a stubbly beard and bruises at the corners of his mouth. He forced a gentle smile, though the flesh at the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. "Aria, the exhibition was amazing. I loved it," I replied coldly. "Thanks." His tone dropped. "It's just a pity that the painting, Memories in the Snow you drew isn't here. Burning that painting was for the best. It's the one I regret painting the most, and I should thank you for it." Rees Jong suddenly looked up, staring at me in shock. After a long pause, he asked me in a hoarse voice if I was planning to go abroad. "None of your business." "Aria, on the day Remy Yi gave birth, I suddenly had a nightmare. In the dream, our families arranged a marriage, but after the wedding, I treated you horribly. I obsessively blamed you for all the suffering Remy Yi endured." I clenched my teeth, watching the tears streaming down his face, and snapped, "Finished with your performance. Get out, and don't disturb the others viewing the paintings." "Aria, that dream wasn't real, right? I didn't plot to harm your family, didn't threaten you to kneel by holding your father's life at stake, didn't force you to guard the graves. How did it come to this?" Rees Jong laughed and cried, shaking his head with a bizarre expression. "We grew up together. We were supposed to have a happy ending. Only today did I realize that I don't actually love Remy Yi. I just enjoyed the feeling of her wholeheartedly depending on me, and I couldn't let go of the time and effort I'd invested in her." "Aria, you're the one I truly care about." I raised my voice to cut him off. "Security, please call 120 for this gentleman." As he was being dragged out, Rees Jong struggled to look back at me, begging me not to forget him. I was so disgusted on the spot that I almost lost my composure. After being abroad for over half a year, my dad mentioned casually during a chat that Remy Yi was gone, and Rees Jong had fallen into depression. Postpartum, Remy Yi remained extremely sensitive, lashing out at Rees Jong at the slightest frustration. She had a love-hate relationship with her own child, drowning herself in alcohol and nicotine day after day. While singing at a bar stage, she was spotted by Xu Na, a former impoverished student. Now, Xu Na has become a rather famous movie star. Xu Na forced Remy Yi to kneel in public and pour her a drink, while also singing 3 songs. In a fit of rage, Remy Yi nearly strangled Xu Na to death. After that, she suffered severe cyberbullying and had nowhere to vent, so she could only argue with Rees Jong day and night. Rees Jong shouted, "If I had known you were just pretending before, how could I have chosen a lunatic like you and given up on Aria Won?" That night, Remy Yi turned on the gas. Of the 3, only Rees Jong was rescued, but his organs were severely damaged. Having previously worked non-stop at heavy labor, his body was completely drained, leaving him to collapse at home and survive on welfare. After hearing this, I simply replied indifferently, "Got it, living in this world. Each person has their own choices and their own fate. Some spare no effort, going through all sorts of struggles, just to prove they possess love, and I refuse to be confined by so-called love. Tormenting myself beyond recognition, I must cherish this second chance at life, using my brush to carve out a dazzling path of flowers.